Welcome, beloved disciples of our Lord Jesus Christ. Last week we closed our session with the words of Jesus directed to his apostles, "This I command you, to love one another." In preparation for their ministry to the world, the disciples' first need within the Christian community was to hold unfailing their love for their fellow Christians. Then, having said that, Jesus proceeded to prepare them for the kind of reception that the unbelieving world would give them. He said, chapter 15, verse 18, "If the world hates you, you know that it has hated me before it hated you." The Christian community, living together and serving each other in Christian love, must not live in an unrealistic kind of fairyland, dreaming that the world will respond to their love with its own similar love. Not so, not at all. They have to get real. Jesus reminded them of how the unbelieving world reacted toward him with bitter hatred. And if they have the same spirit and teaching of Christ controlling them, they are also going to be hated. Jesus told them, "If you find that the world rejects you with anger and hatred, well, don't be surprised. Remember that the world hated me first before it hated you." It is a bitter thing to be hated even by a single person. It's a natural human experience that if somebody hates us, our heart is plunged into deep distress and perplexity. Why do they hate me so? What have I done that they should turn against me with such anger and hatred? But if instead of one person hating us, how would we handle it if everyone started hating us? By warning them in this way, Jesus prepared his disciples for the world's hatred. When, in the future, they experience the world's hatred, they must not be surprised or deeply shaken, nor must they allow themselves to become embittered and hateful in their reaction to it. "The day will come," Jesus said, "when you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake." Matthew 24, verse 9. By the time the Apostle John wrote his Gospel, some 60 or more years after Jesus spoke this warning, Christians were the most hated of all people in the Roman Empire. The Roman government hated the Christians because it regarded them as disloyal citizens. The attitude of the government was understandable. The Roman Empire was vast. It stretched from the Euphrates River in the east to Britain in the west, and from Germany on the north to North Africa on the south. It included all kinds of people, languages, and religions in it. To try and unify all these nations and peoples, Rome required that every Roman citizen must once a year burn a pinch of incense to the godhead of Caesar. For Caesar had become a god that every citizen must be loyal to. After each citizen had burned his pinch of incense to the statue of Caesar and declared, "Caesar is Lord, Caesar est Dominus," he could then go on his way and worship whatever other gods or goddesses he chose. But of all the religions, only Christians refused to do this. They refused to say, "Caesar is Lord," because Christians would call no man Lord except himself. They were loyal Roman citizens. They obeyed the law and paid their taxes. But because they refused to worship the Godhead of Caesar, they were regarded as disloyal citizens. Hence, they alone were persecuted of all the nations and religions of the day. Their supreme loyalty was to Jesus. Therefore, they were hated. Jesus continued, verse 19, "If you were of the world would love its own. But because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you." When John speaks of the world, in its hatred for Christians, he is speaking of godless humanity, the world system which leaves God out of its plans and endeavors. In our modern world, the prevailing philosophy among many is called secular humanism. This philosophy believes that man is the measure of all things and can achieve whatever it attempts to do without any help from God. Jesus tells his followers that they do not belong to this world. We are not of the world. The Greek is literally out of the world. That is to say, Christians do not their life, their hopes, their endeavors from our sinful human nature or society. Our origin is in another world, and we belong to that other world. We are like people from a different planet. We are different. Our lives are centered in God and in His Word. Our strength, our hopes, our trust is placed in the living God, and we live by the teachings of His Son, Jesus Christ. And that's why the world hates us. The world hates anyone who is different, who doesn't accept its values, morals, and beliefs. If we thought and acted like other people, then the world would accept us and perhaps even honor us. But since we march by a different drumbeat, the world treats us like weird aliens with a strange religion and even stranger values.